Rise and oath. Okay. Sheena, it's Marcy. The auditors are joining us for right away at the beginning, right?
They are yet. Are they not in the waiting room?
Oh, he just popped in now.
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Hi, Darren. It's Marcy from the town of Olds. Can you hear us?
Yep. Hi, I can hear you. Yep. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome, all viewers and council and gallery members. Thank you for attending June 7th regular council meeting. I'm calling the meeting to order at 1:01 p.m. I would ask council at this time if they have added items. Are there any changes to the agenda at this point? I think somebody's going to have to watch for me the screen. Councillor Ryan, thank you for attending by Zoom. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Dole, and good afternoon, everybody. Can I please table item number 6F until the next council meeting?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. We will delete item 6F on page 69 at this point. Is there anything further?
That's page 79, Mayor Dole.
Page 79, item 6F, Parkland Regional Library Services funding. Seeing none, I'd ask for a motion, please, to adopt the agenda as amended. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dole. I would make the motion to adopt the regular and closed council meeting agenda as amended for Monday, June 27th, 2022 at 1 p.m.
The amended item being 6F.
The deletion of 6F. Yes.
Deletion. Thank you. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to go Councillors Ryan. Thank you. We're going to move down now to page 3, please, of your agenda. Item 2A, regular council meeting minutes of June 13th. Before I put this on the floor for a vote, perhaps I will get our CEO to note the change in red in our minutes for your Knowledge?
Thank you, Mayor Dell. On the minutes, item 6E, appointment of public at large for the Olds Library. This was an item brought forward as a emergent item last meeting. Once we sent the draft wording to the library board, they had concerns with it that it didn't quite meet the standards they needed in terms of referencing the specific appointment dates. So the workaround that I propose, the intention of this motion is still the same, that Councillor Gord Krebs from Mountain View County be appointed for a one-year term starting retroactively 2021 to the org meeting in 2022. But the wording itself is structured to reflect that specifically. So if council's okay with that rework, I ask that the motion be, the minutes be adopted as amended.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? I would ask for a motion, please, to adopt as amended the minutes from June 13th. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that we adopt the regular council meetings from June 13th, 2022 as amended.
I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much for that information. And now we were going to presentations and delegations, and that's page 8 of your agenda, please. Item 3A, avail LP audited financial statements, and we will have Darren Adamson. I would ask Director Linderman, are you going to introduce?
Sure, I will introduce Darren Adamson of Avail LPP for his presentation of our 2021 financial statements.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sheena. I'm not sure who is the host, but would you be able to make me co-host or somehow allow me to share my screen and then I can do that?
Check with the legislative clerk here.
Looks like you should be good to go, Darren.
Okay. Okay, does that work? Can you see the first page, the title page?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. So what I wanted to do today was kind of not go through the whole set of statements, but instead I've just prepared this PowerPoint slide. So what I propose to cover would just be some of the highlights out of the statements. So the independent auditor's report, it's a clean auditor's opinion, so no surprises there. Some of the financial results from the statement, some selected information, some selected notes, a few of the graphs from the indicators of financial condition, the management letter, you could choose to go in camera if you want, it's up to you, and then same thing with the post-audit letter. So if that works for you, that's kind of how I'll proceed. Assuming that's good.
With that.
Okay, perfect. So the independent auditor's report, I'm sure you have a copy of the financial statements there, but so it is a clean auditor's opinion. The financial statements, in our opinion, are fairly presented in accordance with the Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards. Of course, the auditor's report points out the responsibilities of various people and groups. So management is responsible for the statements themselves. So Sheena's had a chance to look through them, and we've worked together and her team for getting everything the way it looks today. So council, of course, is responsible for a lot of things. One of them is to oversee management and approve the financial statements. So presumably we're going to do that today. And as auditors, we're responsible for various things as well. So when we do an audit, one of the first things we do is we identify and assess the risks of material misstatements so that we focus our attention on the riskier areas. We need to understand the internal controls of the town, evaluate the policies and estimates, conclude on the going concern assumption, and so that would mean that the town is going to continue in existence in the foreseeable future, and then evaluate the presentation of the financial statements. So we've done all those, and we've come to our clean auditor's opinion. Then just getting into some of the numbers. So I start with the revenue here, and we can compare it to prior year and to budget. So total revenues this year, 24,028,000, down about 559 from last year. And the main reason we're down is in the government transfers line. So last year in 2020, we received the municipal operating support transfer grant of over 900,000. We didn't have that this year, so our total government transfers are down over 600,000. We also had a slight decrease in the municipal taxes, but that was budgeted for. And then offsetting that a little bit is increase in development levies. So it's tough to budget for development levies. It's tough to know when new development's going to happen, but so that's an increase of 147. So overall, we're down about 559, but not too far off of where we expect it to be. The expenses, so the presentation of this has changed a little bit from prior years where we've got all the subcategories, and that came right out of the town of Sampleford that the province puts out, and this is kind of the presentation that's recommended now. So we've done that, and each one of the subgroups ties into the very last page, which is the segmented information. So if you wanted to tie this across to whatever the final page number is, that's how those work. Overall, our expenses are very comparable to last year on a total basis, 25.3 million this year compared to just over 25 last year. Some of the increases and decreases, I guess, fire is up a little bit, mostly just due to salaries and honorariums. So it's about 120,000. Transportation services is another one that's had a bit of a change, and that's down about 100,000. And mostly just due to less snow events or less snow removal costs. Water and wastewater is up about 181,000, and that's basically your water purchases went from 1.7 million to 1.9, so a bit of an increase there. And then the last one is down under Parks and Recreation, where that's up about 460,000. Mostly, I think, due to COVID restrictions lifting and being able to open up the facilities and have people back in recreational activities. So overall, our expenses, again, very comparable. We're quite a bit under budget over budget as we typically always are because of the way the town budgets for amortization of capital assets. So we're about 3.6 million over in amortization. Yeah, so amortization came in over 4 million and the actual budget was about 468,000. So other than amortization, we're about 918,000 under budget, and about 500,000 of that is for water discharge fees from the commission. And otherwise we're 400,000 difference from budget on a $25 million budget. I think we're pretty close. So and then the last part of the statement of operations is where we bring in the other revenues. So we have government transfers for capital this year of over 5 million. And so that's for purchases of tangible capital assets. This year, the purchases of capital assets were just under 10 million. So a little bit over 50% were funded by grants, and then the rest would have been funded by the town's internal operations. And then we see here, we had some capital donations and a little bit of contributed assets, but the one new line item we see here is the equity loss from Olds Fiber. And we do need to show that as a separate line item, and I have another slide that kind of talks about that a little bit more, so we'll just kind of leave it at that for now. But overall, we have a surplus of just under 4 million compared to last year's surplus of about 2 million. So maybe before I move on, I'll just see if there's any questions or comments on the statement of operations. And I can address those now, or
I'll certainly ask around the table. Does council have any questions at this point? The CAO? Okay, we're good to go. Thanks, Dan.
okay, perfect. So then I'll just kind of go back to the statement of financial position where we're going to look at our assets, liabilities, and accumulated surplus. So this year, our total assets came in at about 33.2 million. We're down from last year's 35.2. So we're down about 2 million. We had a couple of significant changes. The first one was in cash. So you can see cash is down about over 7 million. There is a statement of cash flows that shows exactly what happened there. But basically, we generated $4 million or so from operations, and then spent 10 million on capital assets and paid down some long-term debt of about 1.2 million. So our cash went down quite a bit, I think as we expected it to, because we were investing that into the capital asset pool. And then Offsetting that is the trade and other receivables is up about a little over 4 million. And that is for various grants basically that are, some of it's for capital and some of it's just operating grants, which we didn't really have any grants receivable last year. So it's just a timing difference. And then we do have the loans receivable. So this year it's for Olds Fiber and last year it was for OICRD. And I do have another slider. There's a note that shows the details of those. And then we have a new line item, investment in Olds Fiber, and it only shows as $1. And normally we're going to include that with other investments or something and not show it separately for $1. But under the excuse me, under the standards, we do need to show that separately because it's because of the accounting standards. The investment is considered a, I can't remember what the wording of it is, but anyways, under the standards, we have to report that separately. So that's the assets. Liabilities overall very comparable to last year. Accounts payable is down from 3.8 to 2.2, so that would just basically be due to timing. And same thing with deferred revenue, it's up from 1.6 to a little over 4 million. So that would be when we receive grants or funding for specific purposes and it hasn't been spent by year end, then we defer it and we'll recognize it as revenue when we spend it in the future. Long-term debt, there were no new long-term debt proceeds this year, just paid off about 1.2 million. Last year, of course, there was the new debt proceeds for the operations center, which I think it was around 10 million last year. So no new debt this year. So that brings us to our subtotal net financial debt. So under public sector accounting standards, this is one of the indicators that you look at to see what's the ability of the town to pay its bills as they come due. And it is negative. So it's sometimes it's net financial assets if it's positive. And it was positive 5 years ago. It was about 5.6 million on the positive side. So why has it gone down? Basically over the last 5 years or maybe even longer, you've invested more of your financial assets into tangible capital assets. And we'll see those as we move down the page. So you still have assets, but they're just moved from financial to non-financial. So over that time period, your tangible capital assets went up about 28 million over 5 years, and your net assets turned into net debt, and that went down about 10.6. So invested 28 million basically in capital assets and had a reduction of 11 million. We'll call it a net financial debt. So yeah, that is what it is. And remember that the long-term debt is repayable over time. It's not all due in 1 year. I think you're making payments of around $2 million per year. So if you factor that 28 million out, you're still in good shape. You can still easily pay your bills as they come due, even though that's a negative position. Then moving down on that same page, we have our net financial debt. We add in our non-financial assets to come down to total accumulated surplus. So our biggest non-financial asset, of course, is tangible capital assets. So that would be all the infrastructure, the buildings, equipment that are owned by the town. And during the year, you did have about just under $10 million of total additions. Some of the bigger ones were under roads. You had the new 68th Street or Canada Way was about 4.2 million, a little over 3.1 million into the operations center. Traffic lights were over 1.3 million, and then also some smaller stuff, additions in machinery and equipment and vehicles and that kind of thing. But overall, pretty big increase in our investments in capital assets this year. We expense those or amortize them over their expected useful life. So the addition from last year to this year, it doesn't equal 10 million because we amortized about 4 million. So up significantly. That brings us to total accumulated surplus, 96.1 million. And that's made up of three different areas. And so note 12 shows the breakdown. We currently can't show the breakdown on the statement of financial position, but I think it's important to know the breakdown. So 5.5 million is unrestricted, so the town can spend that on whatever its greatest need is. Just under 10 million is sitting in reserve, so council or previous councils have set that money aside as to be earmarked for specific purposes, and those are all laid out in note 13. And then the other 80.8 million is already been spent and invested in the capital asset pool, so you can't spend that again, but you still obviously have the assets and the service potential of those assets. So we have about 15 million-ish that's available for future spending. And when we look at that on an annual expense, we have about 25 million or so annual expenses. So we're, over half a year's worth of surplus that is available for future spending. So pretty good shape there. One of the other notes that I wanted to cover was the debt limit note. So you didn't have any new debt this year taken out, but last year you did. And so you do have a little bit of wiggle room still on your debt capacity, but not a ton. So as the debt gets paid off over the years, that will go down. Your total debt of 34 million does include the loan guarantee for the OICRD loan. That's about 3.4 million. So it looks higher than your actual debt, and that's why it's because you've guaranteed that loan. So, and then a couple of new notes this year. The one is just on loans receivable, and I'm sure everyone is well aware of what happened here. But so the prior year OICRD loan was converted in the asset exchange and ended up with a new loan from Olds Fiber at the end of the day of 15 million. Which bears interest at 3.362%, and it'll be repayable over 25 years with biannual payments of 445,000. So that's how that all shook out. And then the new investment in Olds Fiber is here. So basically, so on October 1st, the town took over ownership of Olds Fiber through the assets of OICRD. The original investment was 8.2 million roughly, and then on top of that, another 8.5 million of assets went directly to OFL. So the dark web, the Wi-Fi, and Mountain View Power assets all went directly into Olds Fiber rather than through the town. The town owns 100% of the shares of Olds Fiber, but we don't record those assets because they're recorded on Olds Fiber statements. Then about 6 million of shares were redeemed. We converted the shareholder loan as part of the loan. We dashed down for the fair value increment, which is the difference between the assets that we gave up, which were the loan receivable from OICRD and the forbearance loan or advances. And so that's a fair value increment adjustment that we had to take off of the investment. And then from October 1st to December 31st, the town did incur additional costs. So we added those to the investment. And then going forward, we're going to record an equity pickup in the net earnings or loss of Olds Fiber in the future. So this year we only recorded the increase or the loss from October 1st to December 31st, the period of time that the town owned the investment. And there was actually a loss during that time period of $6,000. We only wrote down about $3,000 because we don't want the investment to show as a negative. So say next year we have a surplus, we will record the surplus as an equity adjustment, adjusted by the difference that we didn't record this year. So it's immaterial difference, but that's kind of how we do that because you can't really have a negative investment. It doesn't make sense. So I think that was everything that I wanted to cover on the financial statements itself. Again, there's lots of additional information. There's lots of good notes. I think for the most part, a lot of it is self-explanatory, or hopefully it is at least. But if I'll just open it up maybe before we move on, just any questions or comments on the financial statements themselves.
Thank you. I'll ask legislation clerk. I can't see if anybody's putting their hand up. Is there anybody in there? Okay. Thank you. Any questions around the table? Not at this time. Thank you, Darren.
Okay, perfect.
Councillor Ryan does have her hand up.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ryan. Sorry, I can't see anybody on my screen.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Appreciate it. Through you to Mr. Adamson. I was just wondering, in September, so this is the annual financial statement for the year ending December 31st. In September, the town of Olds made the payment that Olds Fiber was unable to. Now, I was just wondering whereabouts in the financial statement is that, if you could tell me that.
So that would have been part of the intercompany loan, I think, and then it was when the loan and the assets were converted all together. becomes part of the 15 million. Unless Sheena has something to correct me on that. It looks like she's got her hand up there. So
Okay, thank you.
So the September payment was paid from our reserves. And so we're still waiting for the receivership to be complete, and then the money will come from there.
Okay, thank you. So,
We'll
it's-
pay back the reserves at that time.
okay, so it wouldn't be indicated on this financial statement.
Just in the fact that our reserves are lower than
Lower.
they could be.
Okay, thank you, Sheena. Appreciate that.
No more questions around the table here. Darren, if you want to move forward.
okay. So then each year we give you some of the graphs. I think that I forwarded those to you, Sheena, and hopefully you've had a chance to share those with council. So indicators of financial condition, and if not, let me know and I'll send them to you. So basically there's, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 different graphs. There, maybe not that many. The financial statements themselves you can compare current year to the budget into prior year, but you can't really determine any trends or kind of see where you're going or where you've been. And so what we like to do is we're able to download all the information from all the towns and municipalities in Alberta from the Municipal Affairs website. And then from there, one of our IT guys is able to create these cool graphs for us, and we can compare yourself over time, and you can compare you to, there's 3 different comparables. One of them is comparable same type. So that's towns with the same population size, plus or minus 25%. So there's 13 of those and they're listed here. So that'll be the green line that we see on the graphs. So the blue line is the town of Olds. The green line is the comparable town. The red line is all the towns in Alberta, regardless of their size. And then the purple line is comparable population average, which would include counties or MDs. And so this one is probably a little less, I guess, useful. I usually compare it to the same type. So I'm thinking we'll compare, for the most part, I compare the town to the green one, which is comparable town size average. So some of the indicators I picked out, I think I picked 4 or 5 or 6 that I think are representative of the total. The first one is comparing financial assets to liabilities. So the town is a little bit lower than the comparable. So you're a little bit under 0 to, so you're 0.8, you were over 1. So your financial assets right now are a little bit less than the liabilities. And again, the liabilities includes the long-term debt, so which is only payable at $2 million a year, roughly. So you are a little bit lower, but that's the reason for that is because you've invested so much, I think, in your tangible capital asset pool over the last number of years. There's a couple of graphs that were comparing the town's operations to our assessment of the overall economy. So we're comparing you to the taxable assessment. So obviously each year when the property taxes are done, your assessor goes around and assesses the value of all the properties in the town. And that's gone from 1.4 billion 4 years ago to 1.5. So the economy in Olds is going up, you're improving, and at the same time, your expenses have been going up as well. If it's a perfectly flat line, then that means your expenses are exactly in sync with our approximation of the overall economy. Yours is, the graph here is very flat, so, and it is for the comparables as well. So that means your expenses are in line with the economy. And then this next one is the same thing, but with the revenues. So we're comparing your own source revenues to the taxable assessment. So we're excluding any government transfers from the federal or provincial government. And these are so we're dealing with the revenues that the town can generate on its own without help from other governments. And again, pretty flat line over the 5-year period. There is some ups and downs a little bit. I think this year it's down a little bit, partly due to COVID and partly because of the water and wastewater revenues are down. I think it was a drier summer last year. So, but again, pretty flat over the 5-year period. So our revenues and expenses are pretty much in sync with each other. This graph here just shows the infrastructure investment. And again, when I was looking at that, I kind of did a 5-year, I added them up for 5 years. And over the last 5 years, you've invested over 41 million in your capital assets. So some pretty significant, and you're quite a bit higher than all your comparables. So again, this increases your non-financial assets, and then it has a hit to the financial assets. So everything is related, and that's partly why your non-financial assets are lower and higher, but your financial assets are lower. So you've been investing significant amounts into your capital assets. This graph is just looking at the amount of long-term debt that you have and how much you're paying each year. So next year, your scheduled principal and interest payments are $2,336,000, which represents about 8% of your total revenues this year. And you can see over the last 5 years, it's gone down. And then last year, it went up significantly when you took out the new loan for the operations center. And then this year, it's going down again as you start to make those payments. So again, pretty comparable to the comparables, but yeah. And then this one is just looking at the total accumulated surplus that we have available for future use. And we looked at this already a little bit when we looked at note 12. So you have about 15 million or so of unrestricted and internally restricted surplus. And you can see that is higher than it was a few years ago. So that has been going up. Despite it being under your comparables, you are trending upward in that. So that was kind of, I think that was the last one. So that was the last for the indicators. And then we have a couple of letters that are addressed to council that if you wanted to go into in camera now, you could. I don't think there's anything that's particularly sensitive, but that's up to you.
I will just note it was included in the agenda package, so to me it's not sensitive, but that's council's wish.
I did read them in my agenda package. CAO Brent will speak.
Yeah, there are two notes mentioned by the auditors, both of which I think we're perfectly comfortable sharing publicly. So they, in my estimation, they can be discussed in
Okay,
open council.
They already have been in the public, so.
Okay, yeah. So we have two recommendations this year, and neither one of them, yeah, like I said, are very neither, they're not that big of a deal, but we do want to bring them to your attention. So the first one is just on Olds Fiber. As we know, it's something new this year, and Olds Fiber is going to be needed to be, or the income or loss is going to be needed to be recorded in the town's records going forward. So in order to have the town's audited financials completed, we'll need to have the Olds Fiber statements completed. So just kind of a heads up that we'll need to make sure that that's the timeline on that is firmed up. I know this year everyone was figuring things out and there was a lot of delays, and that's totally understandable, but going forward we'll hopefully get back on a regular time frame. And then the one other recommendation was just on the timesheet approvals in one of the departments. The timesheets were being approved, but they weren't being initialed or signed to show evidence of approval. So as auditors, we kind of need some evidence in order to see if the control is being implemented as it's designed. And if we don't have any way to check it, then then we make a recommendation that you firm that up. And I believe from talking with Sheena, that's already been corrected since the subsequent to the year end. So only two recommendations really. So that's pretty strong system of controls and systems that you have in the office. So sometimes we'll have a lot more than two recommendations. So good job there. So thanks to Sheena and all her team for just, there was a lot of work this year to go through and difference with the investment in Olds Fiber, and we worked through that together. And it's always great cooperation. So I just want to definitely shout out for that. And then we have a post-audit letter, which there are a lot of things that we are required to communicate with council if we find them. So one of them is, did we find any illegal acts or fraud? And the answer is no, we didn't. We didn't have any reason to suspect any. We still had to do our discussions and do our work around that area, but we didn't have any disagreements with management or any particular difficulties. It was, again, figuring some things out together, but no difficulties there. And then really the only significant difficulty that we had was just figuring out the investment in Olds Fiber and doing all the calculations and trying to get the values and stuff. It did take some time and some digging and extra work for sure, but we got that done. The post-audit letter does talk about some emerging issues. So there are some changes in the public sector accounting standards coming down the pipe. None of them are happening for at least 2 years, but one is on purchased intangibles. We couldn't record those before. So if you buy some artwork or something like that, previously you just expense it and now you can record it, or you will be able to. Not a big deal. Financial instruments in foreign currency. So the big change there will be the investments that you have will become recorded at fair value rather than record them at cost right now. So that's coming. Asset retirement obligations in 2023. That one might require some work looking at different assets, determining whether or not there is a standard that's imposed by a government or imposed by the town itself. And then if we're over that standard, then we may need to accrue a liability. So that's a little bit different than we've done it in the past. The revenue, new section, I don't think that's really going to change. We're basically following the way the new standard is anyways. And then the one I like and I'm looking forward to is the financial statement presentation. So right now, the way we have our statement of financial position is financial assets minus liabilities equals net debt plus non-financial equals accumulated surplus. And it's different than any other accounting standards that are out there. So if you have your own business or if you look at nonprofit organization statements, and they have basically a balance sheet with assets at the top, liabilities and equity at the bottom. That's what most people are familiar with. And that's what we're going to go back to. So I think that's better, easier to understand, but it's still a couple years out. And that is everything that I wanted to cover.
Very well presented. Thank you. Once again, I will open the floor up either by Zoom or around the table if anybody would wish to speak at this time. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and thanks, Darren, for the presentation. Excuse me, just a quick question. I realize this is a financial review and audit and summary, but do you look at all that risk and exposure related to IT and security and so on?
Not really. The only thing we do look at the controls a little bit, but only if it's going to help us do our audit work and provide our audit opinion. So we look at IT only enough to make sure that the financial systems are, working as they should and stuff like that. We don't really look at IT as far as value for money or any of the other IT areas other than on the financial side. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does the audience have any questions? Sheena, Councillor Ryan. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Darren. Adam, we've got two Darrens here. So Mr. Adamson, I will then ask my council for a motion to put on the floor, please. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Thank you, Darren, for the presentation and for the hard work that you've done providing us and presenting us with these documents today, and to Sheena and your team as well, and to the staff that participated. Appreciate all the work that's been done. So I would move that the Town of Olds 2021 audited financial statements and the 2021 Province of Alberta financial information return be approved as presented.
Thank you very much. Any further comments before I call the vote? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. And once again, I thank our administration and I thank you, sir, for your role today to explain this for us.
You are certainly welcome. And then I guess just one heads up now. So maybe I'll ask Sheena if she can send me the email addresses of Mayor, I suppose it'll be Mayor and one of the councillors that's going to officially sign the statements. And then the CAO's email address as well. And so you can expect an email it'll come from Right Signature. It's just like DocuSign or probably any of the other ones that you've used. And that's what we'll use to officially sign them. And then we'll get your official copies to you right as soon as they're all signed, and get a copy up to Municipal Affairs, which we did get an extension to the end of the month, so we're almost there. But we're within the new deadline, so everything should be great. So thank you very much.
You have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, you too.
All right, council, we have no business arising out of the minutes or unfinished business, do we? I'm just asking, seeing none. We have no bylaws today. We will go to item 6, new business, page 58 of your agenda, 6A, park naming dedication. Who would you like to speak to this, please, Mr. CEO?
I'm going to pass it off to Director Wagstaff for introductions. Just to note on the RFP, I believe there's a spelling error in the park. It ought to say Statham, I believe. It's currently spelled Stratham, so I guess, yeah, Doug can speak to that though.
Thank you.
Yes, I will. That's my first note here is throughout the, we had Statham, but then there was a typo right when we, so we want to capture it correctly for the minutes so that moving forward, we have the correct documentation for the park name. It is Statham, as you see it in the rest of the document. With that, it is an exciting point for us when we're able to name parks, especially after honored residents from our community. This is something that we have spoken with administration, did speak with council in a previous session in camera, and from the direction of council, then we met with the Qantas Club and Lyle Statham representing the family. And today I would like Lyle to stand and he's representing the family, and if he'd like to make any introductions to those that he has brought with him today during this honoring ceremony.
Thank you very much and welcome Tim and Elaine. And thank you very much for your introduction.
So I would like to read for the record just the comments about Mrs. Statham. It is in the RFD, but for the public that are listening, the Qantas requested council naming a park after Jean Statham. Jean moved to Olds in 1946 when she was 13 years old and spent the rest of her 84 years here. She worked in local banks for 30 years and was a high neighbor welcome hostess for over 30 years until 2015. During those years, she welcomed over 5,000 new families to Olds with folders full of gifts, coupons, and things from local businesses and information about Olds and its services. Living in Olds for so long had made Jean a wealth of information for newcomers. Her friends and family would joke that it was the perfect career for her as it allowed her all the coffee and drinking and visiting she could work in. One of her major endeavors was organizing the Newcomers Ladies Coffee Club to help women who were new to town make friends and share experiences. With their monthly coffee parties were usually held at the bowling alley and helped many ladies adjust to their new community. The Statham family has been contacted. They're joining us here today, and we're very honored to recommend to council the naming of a park in Olds, the Jean Statham Park.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we put a motion on the floor from your family? I understand now you live in Olds. Well, welcome to Olds. I would ask at this time then if council would put a motion on the floor for this. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move that council name the 56th Avenue and 58th Street park space with a playground sponsored by Qantas as the Jean Statham Park.
This is final comments. I do miss your mother a lot. It certainly is a face that you get to know, especially since 1984, since we've been here, and Dearly Miss Lady, your whole family. Thank you. All right, we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Daly. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? Heather, did I see you? Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Ryan. That is carried. And I can't wait to see that park. Go ahead, Director Wagstaff.
And I'd like to add, there will be a ceremony dedicating this park once the playground has been constructed. It's renewed. That is in the 2022 budget. One of the things that we have encountered is such equipment is quite back ordered due to the supply chain that we're finding in a lot of things. So an RFD is going out for that, but we have already had feedback from suppliers that if we were planning for a park this summer, it's going to be touch and go in order to have that completed. Regardless, once that park is completed, we will contact the family and with Qantas have a grand opening.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay, I understand, but it is a beautiful day. I'm sure you will make the best choice.
Your worship, may we entertain a brief moment here where you can take a picture with the family since they are here?
You certainly can. Can we just pause for 5 minutes then? We'll take a recess for 5 minutes. And whatever the family would like, we can arrange for them. Thank you. Okay, page 63, please, item 6B. I do have a request. We have an Avid Volunteer that is one of the recipients of some money here. And one of my counselors would like to make an announcement. His wife has been volunteering for a very long time, and I'll let him speak to the rest.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Yeah, I'll keep it very simple and brief. My wife is involved with the pickleball group. And so having said that, I think it's probably wise if I recuse myself from any discussion the council may have. So thank you. Oh, I can't? Okay.
Thank you very much. So I'll turn it over to the CAO and you can let us know how you'd like to deal with this.
Yeah, I believe in this case, better safe than sorry is kind of the ask. Not that there's any risk, but perception is oftentimes measured as a factor as well. So I would recommend that Councillor Wilson recuse himself.
Okay. Councillor Wilson has left the room and we will move forward. Before we get the motion on the table, does anyone have any questions in this regard? Or if not, I would ask for the motion and we'll go from there. Councillor Walsh.
Yes, I would like to move that council approves the Summer Games Legacy Fund distributing a total of $23,106.10 as recommended by administration.
All the information of the overview. And I will just ask one more time, are there any questions before I call for the vote? Oh, Heather's got, wait, see, somebody's got to help me see Heather. Hi, Heather, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I have a couple of questions, but my first one would be on page 63, we have the recommendation of the numbers. And then on page 67, there's a different listing of the numbers. And I'm just wondering which one are we actually using?
Please disregard page 5.
Okay,
Which is
thank you.
Page 5 of the RFD, which is the last page you're referring to. Just focus on the recommendation on page 63.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mayor Dahl, if I may ask a question then.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. So what we were saying is the overview was different numbers on the page than our RFD. So I will then call.
I do have a question. I do have a question.
One more question, Councillor Ryan.
Yes, thank you. So my question is, or my comment would be, you know, I'm just looking at the distribution of the dollars and cents here. And I see that the ask, you know, for Community Learning Campus is they're getting the total amount, and yet, you know, and yet we're not giving the total amount to some of the other ones. Community Learning Campus, well, I do appreciate and support them. They are also getting funding in the next series of grants from the New to You. They're also getting money that way. So I'm just wondering, and we had that presentation from the Grizzlies with their ask. I'd like to see a little bit more money given to the Grizzlies, given the fact that they're opening up their program to so many different types of minor sports. You know, I just think that I would rather see them get their $5,000 and takes them away from the Learning Campus, which is already getting a grant in the next page in our agenda package.
I will start with Director Wagstaff, please.
So I can provide some rationale for how the selection recommendation progressed and then open it up for council to comment. So the Community Learning Campus and the Olds Grizzlies, on those two applications, one of the criteria that council did give us as a directive was to look at organizations that don't otherwise receive support from the town, either directly financially or with regards to other supports. Also in discussions following up with the Olds Grizzlies after that presentation this was a facility that was already built, and they're looking for financing that would replenish the cash flow and reserves that they have in place. The other applications that were made that you see before you were all things that have not occurred yet and are being based upon their grant requests. Also with the Community Learning Campus application, it came from in partnership with Mountain View County had written a letter of support in how it impacts beyond just our boundaries. The Nordic Mountain View Nordic Ski Club, which is something that we've been helping support within trails within our community, also indicated that this is a way to help foster some outdoor recreation in the non-summer seasons for families and individuals in the community. They can try something without having to put out the investment. Community Learning Campus, when we evaluated it, already has a stock of skis that are directed at adults, and this particular purchase was directed at youth and smaller individuals for skis. That was the difference why we went with a full funding for the Community Learning Campus. We did recognize that other programs that they offer through their outdoor recreation, as well as programming within the fitness center, receive other funds via the town's Renew to You quite frequently. As you'll see in the next presentation, the Community Learning Campus Outdoor Center and the Fitness Center are regular benefactors from New to You grants as they enhance their programming to the community. So again, just to recap with the Olds Grizzlies, that was one that we did open the discussion with them. Yes, they did make a $5,000 request. It was arbitrary. It wasn't any particular rationale behind the dollar amount that they requested as compared to the other applicants here who had very specific dollar amounts that they were looking for.
Around the table, councillors, are there further questions or comments? We have no further questions or comments, Councillor Ryan. I will call for the vote. Are you ready to vote, or did you want to add to the comments? Okay, thank you. Thank you for the explanation. Director Wagstaff, at this point, I will call for the vote. We have a motion on the table from Councillor Walsh. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Page 72, please, of your agenda. We'll just wait for Councillor Wilson to return. Welcome back. Okay, we can move the screen to page 72, please. Sponsorship for Olds College Ag. I still see 16. What am I on here? Oh, okay. I missed one. 68. Thank you very much. We're on page 68. Okay, would you like, Director, who's going to speak to this item? Mr.
Director Wagstaff.
Okay, thank you.
So this year, in the first set of distribution from New to You funds, we recommend the following. Community Learning Campus, and I will just provide a brief overview of each of these as well. The Community Learning Campus is support for youth programming with materials for a robotics program for summer camps and after school programs. It is a $3,500 request of a $6,550 expense for them. The rest will be for some fees and some other funding. Primarily what they were looking at was materials that would set up, and then this would be able to be a program that they could rerun following that. They targeted an area that was trying to engage some youth that they looked at and saw that there was not that type of programming within our community, and that was their piece. The Olds and District Hospice Society was towards generally operating. The Hospice Society has been the largest benefactor of New to You funding historically to date. Equal Olds High School, the COM program, it was to note, they made a new to you application to help support their Real Care Baby project previously. And they had returned those monies last year because they had found additional funding to purchase this kit. And they returned those unused funds to the town. This time, it's the same project, but they're looking for batteries. So the batteries that help pack, battery packs that go with the Real Care Baby project. Hope for Mountain View County Kids, or MVC Kids. It's for ongoing operating expenses. This was a portion of their request. The Evergreen Club was for 2 floor curling sets. So for their programming within the Evergreen for seniors. The Qantas Music Festival, it was noted that they made a $1,500 request to New to You. The town does sponsor $1,000 on an annual basis. Now that's for council's prerogative each year, but historically it's been a $1,000 donation. So given that we had a limited amount of funds, it was decided that a $500 New to You grant would be recommended. The Olds Healthcare Fundraising Committee was for 5 Axiom cushions and covers. And that was a full grant request of the $825.
Thank you for the explanation. Does anyone have questions for Director Wagstaff? Go ahead, Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Your Worship. Directed to Director Doug Wagstaff. With these allocations of the funds going to these different organizations, how do we get the word out to the public as far as what's been allocated and you know, what its purpose is, what the benefits are, both from the past motion and this one as well? Do we put it on the website? Do we put it in the newspaper? Those types of things. Just curious.
In the past, it's been twofold. We put it out on our social media. And then when we do a check presentation, at that point, we also do some promotions around the recipients and what their projects were.
They also put it in their store on a big sign and they leave it up as well. It has all the past recipients on page 70 of our agenda as well. So hopefully some people read the agenda and they can also view it there.
Good, thank you.
Any further questions? I would ask, oh, certainly, Councillor Daly.
Thank you again, Your Worship. So at any time, do we or could we request a report back from these individuals receiving the funds, whether it's just a 5 or 10 minute quick presentation here to council or a written report that we could include in our correspondence?
Absolutely. That isn't something we've brought to council in the past, but it's something we certainly can do moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. Do we have a motion, please, on the floor? Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, I would make the motion that new to you grant allocations for summer of 2022 be approved for funding as presented.
Thank you. No further questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Opposed? Sorry, Heather, I can only just see the top of your head. Did you vote in favor? Thank you. All right, we're moving forward. That was carried. Councillor Daly.
So for the next item, I'll remove myself from the room as well, seeing my association with the Olds College.
Thank you. Our legislative clerk will record that. Now we are on page 72, item 6D. And I would ask the CA who would like to speak to this.
We'll also turn to Director Wagstaff for this item.
Thank you.
So the information from Olds College is enclosed in the RFD in the agenda package. The one piece for council to deliberate on today is if they feel that this is something that they would like to again be a part of. I just want to note that in the past, it's been a $1,000. This year it was recommended as $1,500 as the levels for their sponsorship change. So in the past, $1,000 was the level, a basic entry level to get in. This year it is $1,500. The second piece to that is, in the past, this particular event has been one that had been funded from the Destinationals Collective Fund, and it is not, sponsorships like this are not attributed to the budget. However, there is an opportunity, as one of the alternative options is to approve the sponsorship out of funded reserves of the Destinationals Collective Fund. Right now, though, the recommendation is to consider it as a public relations within your budget. That budget is a total of $3,000. So this would be half of the entire annual budget if it was through council public relations. However, the rationale for providing that as the recommendation is that is all that the budget currently would allow for, without resolution that would clearly indicate it's something coming from reserves.
Thank you for sharing that information. Does council have questions with this regard? I see I'm actually checking Councillor Ryan. She's okay. All right. I would ask then for a motion to be put on the floor. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I would make the motion that a sponsorship of $1,500 friend partnership for Olds College Ag Smart held August 9th to 10th, 2022 be approved.
Thank you very much. And I do note that there are 4 one-day tickets available, so we can discuss that at a different time of how and what that looks like in the package. All right, those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll call Councillor Daly back to the room. Director Wagstaff is excused. Is that correct? Thank you. Very good. Our CAO has a handout for you at this time. It's the actual request for proposal with regards to the organizational review. And he will detail the couple of changes that there were outside the email conversations that we had with him.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Councilor Ryan, I'll email this document to you, but basically what I sent you starts on page 9, which is Schedule A, outlining the terms for the proponents. I had to finish this up just before the meeting, so apologies on the briefness of it, but it hasn't changed since the last version I emailed out. The first 9 pages are just the cover page and the machinations of the RFP process, scope and dates, times, procedure, and whatnot. But basically just asking for final input on the process. I know everyone had, well, 5 out of 7, I believe, did provide some comment, whether it was we're good to go or here and there. I provided some counter comments, but prior to us releasing it later this week, I just want to make sure council's comfortable with it. And it's largely based on conversations that already happened via email. So nothing's really changed from this document.
Thank you. And it was a good thread of emails. Councillor Walsh and then Councillor Blatz.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Dahl. I just curious about employees, just as a survey. I probably want to see them, or at least those who volunteer to be interviewed. I think it just creates a better environment when the employees know that they're going to be interviewed too, while everybody else is being interviewed. Just to be left out, I think, would create a culture of,
So you mean in this process, Councillor Walsh, that they'll be part of the consultant's purview, so to speak? Okay, yeah, and that I'm not sure if every staff member will have the chance, but It certainly, I use the phrase key staff members, which was the common, I guess, jargon in other org review RFPs. We do have 70 plus full-time staff, so I can't guarantee they'll all have a turn, but certainly I think by function or department, they'll be touched on. It does mention in there as well, we'll be conducting a staff satisfaction survey over the summer, and those results will be shared with the consultant, and they can use them as they wish, whether that be further interviews or not.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Batts?
Thank you, and I concur with Councillor Walsh's comments. That was going to be part of my question as well. I think it's very important that they feel very much a part of this process. And but in your developing all of this, then this was shared with, I assume, your executive team and HR, and everyone was included in this conversation. Or I didn't send an email back, and I apologize for asking the question here. I just didn't have an opportunity over the weekend. So
thanks for the question. The executive team had a chance to comment on it. HR has not seen it yet. And basically when council approves it, that's when, along with council strategic plan, I plan on doing kind of informal meetings with people in departments to make them aware of these upcoming documents. This org review has been very poorly kept secret for a long time, so it's not a surprise from anyone, but it's just, I didn't want to get too many cooks in the kitchen, to be honest with you. I thought this was a very important thing to do in an efficient manner, so not everyone was given the opportunity for input on this document.
no, thank you for that, and that clarifies my question. So I appreciate the answer.
Thank you. If I see no more questions at this point, I'd ask for a motion then, please. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the organizational review request for proposal be accepted as presented, and that council requests that administration begin the RFP process.
Any further questions or comments at this point before we approve this for RFP process? Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Just a quick question for the CEO. So, or the legislative clerk, will this document at some time become part of the meeting, the council minutes here, or public view?
Yes, yeah, I will send it to Marcy to have it included. Just the timeliness or lack thereof, I guess, of having it ready.
Very good. I will now call for the vote. All those in favor? That's carried. We will be moving forward with that item. It's very happy to see. We have a deletion of 6F, so we will move down now to page 80 of your agenda. And I would ask that the motion that you've been presented in the RFD would read that council approve the Town of Old's 2022-32 strategic plan as presented and request administration implement for the 2021-25 term. I will certainly hand this over to an individual, or I can also make it myself. I can make motions. So I would open this at this time. CEO, is there anything you'd like to add, or would council like to add anything further?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just expand on this. The accepted for information, that was just an error on my part. I didn't update the RFD. And you may have recalled last meeting, this was sent back with a specific date of July 11th. It just so happens the consultant finished the edits quicker time. So even though it doesn't match the previous motion, council's comfortable. It hasn't changed in format, structure at all, just in format. So yeah, I think administration is, well, if council moves to it today.
Okay. If there's no further comments, Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that council approves the 2022 to 2032 strategic plan as presented.
Yes, but we and further request administration implement the plan for 2021-25 term.
Okay, that's friendly amendment.
Thank you very much. Are you okay with that? Thank you. Any further questions? Good, we gave you another action item there. Those in favor? Are you okay, Councillor Ryan? Thank you. That's carried. Moving down to page 89, now in your agenda, please. Reports. I'll just get a motion on the floor before we start our reports. Who would like to put the motion on the floor? Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that the reports from council, authorities, boards, committees, and commissions ending June 27th, 2022 be received for information.
Yeah. And I'm going to start with Councillor Ryan so that I don't forget her because she's the only one left on the screen. And I know she handed in a report.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Appreciate it. I did send out a copy of my report earlier today through email. So everybody, I won't go into it in detail. Had a meeting this morning with Parkland Planning Services, Community Planning Services. They had their AGM and I was elected onto the board. So that was kind of nice, representing communities over 6,000 population. They provided the audit report. It's not really a full audit report. They do those only once every 3 years and looks good financially. So there's all good information there in my report. Wanted to put a set of hats off to ORE for providing our fire department with the house for fire training that they've been doing over there for several weeks. And I don't see Justin in the room, so we're on Zoom here today. So perhaps Councillor Daly could speak to it as well, because he had turned up for that event, as well as Councillor Wilson. And it was pretty interesting to watch the fire and with the kind of training they do over at that house. It was pretty cool, actually. And they provided us with a lot of information about their training. So it was a good event, and I wish all of council was able to attend. I know Councilor Cummings and Councilor Blatz had an arts committee meeting that evening, so they weren't able to attend that, but it was quite good. And the other thing I wanted to note was the new CAO starting at Mountain View Cedars Housing. I'm really pleased to get somebody who's local on board, who also has experience with Mountain View Cedars Housing. She worked on the project in Sundre, and she just started today. It was her first day, and she will be working with Sam Smalden, our current CEO, until the end of the week. Hopefully that'll be a really good transition. That's all I need. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing. Councillor Welsh.
Yeah, thank you. Fairly high level, starting May 27th, their ICC meeting. The town of Olds and the county with our meeting with our intermunicipal cooperation committee. June 1st, attended the all staff barbecue, and I think that was a great event. It was nice to see all staff out and a lot of people recognized. June 6th, PMP meeting, ROFL board on June 7th, June 8th, college dinner. June was a busy month. June 15th, the library board. I was going to mention the online auction, but it concluded last week. So the reporting section, I got to remember to report these before, so everybody has the opportunity to help fundraise with the library board. June 17th, I had a Alberta Municipalities meeting on the governance committee in Edmonton. Thanks to Councillor Blatz for attending the SRD meeting for me while I was out of town. I guess the Muni, we reviewed a lot of the resolutions that are coming forward and the fall conference for Alberta municipalities. There was 18 of them. Most of them will go out for rewording or better wording, I think. So I think ours was changed a wee bit, not much. Participated in service level review on last Wednesday and Thursday. And this morning I attended a municipal Indigenous Relations panel presentation for Alberta Muni's governance committee. So it was a 2-hour presentation, which quite interesting. how municipalities are working with Indigenous groups. So other than that, that's most of my month.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. My report was contained within the council circulation, so I won't go into a lot of detail other than to say there were a couple of community-related events I attended, including the Seniors Week and recognition there from the provincial government, as well as the Olds Chamber Business Recognition Awards Banquet. The Mountain View Region Water Commission met, and steady as she goes there. I did provide a summary of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. I sat in virtually along with Mayor Dahl for 3 sessions, 3 half-day sessions. And the theme going forward, as I indicated in my summary, is Together for Recovery. A lot of common themes emerging, whether you're at the provincial level or the at FCM, in terms of affordable housing, attainable housing, climate and climate change, and how to mitigate the risks, transportation, funding from provincial and federal governments, place-based initiatives, and recognizing that we aren't at a place where there is one solution fits all. We need to recognize the differences and tailor programs for those regions and different regions. Attended the Cape Networking early June, spoke briefly with James Carpenter, and he indicated they had a successful trip to India, meeting with prospective entrepreneurs. They are in the process of reviewing those applicants and filtering, and then proceeding to the next step, which will be issuing invitations to any interested parties to continue to pursue opportunities and come over here to Canada and Alberta, and hopefully Olds to pursue opportunities. And I attended the Cape AGM, and I mentioned in my report, and I'm not sure if Olds has entertained this in the past, perhaps they have, but an interesting initiative that some municipalities are using, and Sylvan Lake has used it recently, is Win This Space. And they run an initiative where they look for proposals from interested entrepreneurs. The entrepreneur basically writes a business case, and then there is a review of those submissions, and then the successful applicant, entrepreneur, has the opportunity to gain some funding to offset leasehold improvements or rental costs, and tap into some business coaching, whether that be around web and web design, social media, advertising, or what have you. The individual I was talking to from Sylvan Lake, who was a counselor and also a restaurant owner in that area, indicated that Sylvan's had some good success with that economic development initiative. So, and that is about it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Very good. We'll just keep going around. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I also attended most of the normal council PNP meetings and regular council meetings. On May 26th with Councillor Ryan, we did tour the Mountain View Seniors Lodge in Sundre and all of their facilities. I attended the ICC meeting on the 27th with the county. I also attended the staff barbecue, and I was pleased with the introduction of all our staff and our new staff members, as well as CAO Brent Williams. I did some volunteering during Seniors Week. I attended a joint dinner with the Olds College Board of Directors and staff, and look forward to the continued collaboration and partnership with the college. Participated in the age-friendly round table discussion on, I believe, the 10th of June with Minister Pong, Mayor Dahl, Councillor Ryan, and myself, and members from the Community Lifestyles Committee, as well as the Chamber, a Cape representative, ORE, and MLA Nathan Cooper. Councillor Ryan and I then took Minister Pond and MLA Cooper to the Mountain View Seniors Lodge here in town, and then we attended the tea at the Evergreen Center in the afternoon for the presentation of the age-friendly community designation recognition. Attended a MPC meeting where we accepted 2 applications for urban hens. I also attended on behalf of Councillor Walsh, the South Red Deer River Wastewater Commission meeting. And again, I want to pass on the compliments that they provided their CIO Witherick and their operations manager, Don Monroe, to our operations staff for their quick response to the issues we had during the last rainstorm incidents. June 22nd and 23rd, full day discussions on the review of our service level. Attended the chamber event for business burger and beer awards, recognizing our local businesses. Attended the public art advisory meeting, and we discussed the mural that's been painted on the side of the Albertan building downtown. So if any of you folks get an opportunity to go by and look at it, it's absolutely a gorgeous mural. And it was painted by a Steve Horning, I think his name is. And it was during the recent HBO production. And the artist is very well renowned, and he's part of actually Vancouver's Public Registry of Artists. So, and then I attended the joint dinner with Alberta Municipalities, Royal Municipalities Association, our town council, and Mountain View County Council. So that's it. I do have a written report that will be emailed out this afternoon that goes in a little more detail. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's great. I was just thinking to myself, I've only done the period of May 25th to June 26th, and then I'll probably repeat more over. No, I just do from council to the council. Okay, Councillor Cummings, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I guess everything I've done has been covered by everybody else here today. The only other point of interest, I guess, that was the Public Art Advisory Committee in that mural. So there was a lot of discussion about the mural because the mural process was kind of ad hoc this time around, as opposed to the way it's normally designed, because the art was there and the art was scheduled to be destroyed, as all movie production stuff is. So the owner of the building managed to jump in and say, hey, before you break that down or paint it over, let's see what we can do to keep it. So I'm happy that we were able to adjust the process involved in the mural production, the mural process. And I hope it continues. It goes to the next MPC meeting. I'm just checking my calendar. That's the 21st for its recommendations. So I hope it does carry forward on that process, because it is an interesting process, an interesting item to see, and it seems to be getting a lot of community support. Other than that, the Municipal Planning Commission that we had on the 16th was pretty straightforward. The chicken hens was a great and interesting discussion on the chicken coops and the processes. It was a new thing for everybody. So I believe we did recommend to staff administration to do a review of the process to see where we can find or streamline the process, or where the process is working really well, as we think that's necessary when you do something new like this. Just waiting for the next one for pigeons or something, but chickens were covered anyways. And that's about it, other than like I said, the regular scheduled appointments and meetings that everybody else has already discussed here today.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Your Worship. So starting from June 1st, attended the all staff barbecue with the rest of the councillors and mayor here. It was a great little program that they had there, recognizing all the town staff and a little bit of camaraderie that was built there. I thought it was a great event. Attended the Tom Christensen retirement function at CLC with Mayor Dahl and Councillor Wilson, I believe was there. Yep. And then of course attended one session of FCM virtual with the mayor and Councillor Wilson. And then I also attended the Age Friendly Community Designation by Minister Powell. And then I attended the Olds College Board of Directors luncheon, which I felt was very productive and starting to open those conversations again between the two parties. Attended the Indigenous Awareness Day in Centennial Park, which was very educational and very well done. I heard lots of compliments about the level of quality that was put into that, and it was just such a great educational experience for those that attended. And I'm always learning from that stuff, so it's really good. Of course, attended the service level reviews, attended the Olds Chamber Small Business Awards, and then after that we attended the Olds Fire Department demo, which Heather had mentioned previously in her report, where the house across from the Cow Palace they used as a demonstration site. And it was very impressive, as Councillor Wilson was there as well, to see our fire department in action and doing their training and the equipment in action, and just how everything clicks and moves along. They are a well-oiled machine, I must say. And my compliments to Fire Chief Andrew for the work that he's done with that group. It was very evident of their professionalism, as well as they were constantly coming up to Fire Chief Andrew and talking and asking questions. So evidence that he's very approachable as well. So I found it again, very, very educational. And then I also attended the Alberta Municipalities as well as the Rural Municipalities dinner and discussion last week. And as well as all the council meetings, PMP, CO discussions, OFL, so forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. I will say June was an extraordinary month for council to be busy for sure. I had 6 speaking events, and 3 of those were graduations. I won't repeat a lot of these because staff barbecue. I will touch a little addition to FCM here, Councillors Daly and Wilson. Thank you, Councillor Wilson, for your detailed report. I'm just going to add a couple things to my perspective, and you talked about the Together Through Recovery. They talked a lot about that. Over 2,000 municipalities were represented. Current membership 2,067 and 33 not renewed. We spoke a lot about housing, and the federal government has funding for affordable housing, and Councillor Daly noted something that was very interesting. The first morning he was there, that we should likely revisit the Miller Meadows area now that they've reopened it, that there was a sign up there, and there was lots of interest to come together to find solutions regarding housing crises that we're all faced with. Municipalities lost the pool of homes in a lot of our municipalities when people left housing markets to become Airbnbs. I thought that was fascinating. And I'll leave you to speak to that at another time if you wish. Excuse me. Food security was a major discussion on all the days I was there. It was brought up over and over again, roundtable discussions on the priority for all of us. We'll be hearing more about that. The Prime Minister said we cannot build strong Canada without directly working together with all municipalities. We'll see how that goes. Lots of discussion with electric vehicles. One of the speakers note that was repeated quite often were a lot of the northern municipalities and or Northern Ontario that they will never be able to provide infrastructure for vast areas with electric vehicles because they just won't work for rural and northern areas. They can't find trees to plug into. It's a major concern. I found a lot of interest with the discussions they had on electric vehicles, infrastructure and roads. There was a doctor, Dr. Green, from Selkirk College in the Kootenays, BC, and I would like to follow up. She knows absolutely everything you want to know about transportation and talked a lot about both sides of the story. So is transportation a critical service or not? Especially long haul transportation it's not our responsibility, it's a federal responsibility. So I won't go on further. A lot of it's been shared already with Councillor Wilson and Daly. I'm not going to repeat what everybody else said. I was happy that we had a partner, Olds College Board of Governor discussion with all of council, and our CAO gave a wonderful presentation there. Thank you very much for that. And we had our municipal area partnership meeting, at which time we had correspondence that was forwarded back that I just prepared, and it's ready for the next council meeting. And we haven't got the minutes concluded at this point, but they should be ready for next month. I'm hoping to get them this week. And National Indigenous Days was wonderful as well, and the same as everybody else. And I concluded my report on June 23rd at the service level. Thank you. Do we have a motion? Is there anything you'd like to speak to with the background then? I'll just check Councillor Ryan. She's good. All right, then we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Daly to receive for information reports. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. We have no quarterly financial position report. We will move down to page 125 at this time for correspondence. And I would like a motion on the floor, please. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor. I remove that the correspondence and information report ending June 27th, 2022 be received for information.
To Council, if any of you would like to ask questions with either correspondence. Seeing none, then we will have, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I just was wondering, there's a couple of asks in these correspondence, and are we going to follow up?
Councillor Ryan, I forwarded the letter that was addressed from the Public Health Agency to our CAO, and he is going to be looking to seek some to understand more, and we'll get back to council as well. I'm certain that the Community Lifestyles will likely get back to our CAO, and we'll have some updates further in the future. That's all we really have for now. Councillor Ryan?
Yes, there is one of the correspondence here with regards to broadband and talking to communities. So I'm not sure what we'll participate in with that or what they're looking for, but just thought that that should be followed up as well.
Talking to the same correspondence? Public health? Which one are you talking to?
The other one with regards to the MPs that has sent the letter out to us with regards to broadband.
There was three points they were looking for, and
Yeah,
also I sent that to the CEO. He will speak to that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. So just regarding the first item, 9A, from Shannon Stubbs, who is the Shadow Minister for Rural Economic Development. In the second to last paragraph, I believe, is basically the crux of this correspondence, that they're asking that rural municipalities, which they define as any municipality or community under 20,000 people, basically share their top 3 priorities, barriers, whatever you have to economic development. So it wasn't brought forward as an action item, more of just information that if council wishes to respond, you can let me know now and we can collect that informally as a group. But if there's will to discuss it now, that's also council's prerogative. So
I think it's the same priorities that we just shared from FCM, and they seem to be the same 3 throughout the whole theme, but we can certainly get back to you on that. Are you good now? Good with that, Councillor Ryan?
Yeah, as long as we do respond, and I do think it's important for us to respond.
Yeah, no problem. I highlighted that here as well, the 3 most important issues. So if any of council at this point would like to just forward them to our CEO, he can compile what they were, and then we'll follow up with you. Is that okay? Okay, nothing further? We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Blatz at this time. I'll call for the motion. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, Councillor Ryan. We will now be moving into a closed session for one item. And I will note that for those of you that are joining us via live streaming, the meeting, we are live streaming. No, we're not. Okay, we're on Zoom. Okay. Okay, we will be moving to a closed session, and we will have, you will be able to reconvene And we will rise and report at the time. So if you want to wait in the waiting room, we will contact you once we're done. So I would ask at this time for a motion to go in closed session at 2:37 PM. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I would move that council go into closed session under FOIP Section 16, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party relative to the former operations building. At 2:30. Yes. Sorry, with the required attendees being CEO Williams, Director Linderman, and Director Wagstaff.
Amendment to that, just myself and Legislative Clerk McKinnon can stay. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you for waiting. And now we will move to the rise and report section of our agenda. And I would ask for a motion, please. Oh, Councillor Walsh.
I move that we accept the CEO's report on the former operations building for information.
Thank you very much. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Heather? Hand up. Okay, thank you. Now I see you. All right, that's carried. Thank you. And I would now ask for a report, motion to adjourn the meeting at 3:16 PM. Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Your Worship. I so move that we adjourn at 3:16.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you. See you, Councillor Ryan. Okay, you're already gone. Bye.